Yo, what's good YouTube, man? It's Gabriel, John Fan TV, man. Back at another video. Like the content of the video, go and smash that like button. The content of this channel, go and hit subscribe, man. Look, all right, Ravens, Titans, in London, going down tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So we're gonna do game preview, give you the injury report, things like that. Talk about some numbers in the game, keys to the game, X factors, predictions. So yeah, man, let's go ahead and kick it off with the injury report. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the Ravens side of it. Ravens got some really good news yesterday. Pretty much everybody is going to play. So you're talking about Odell Beckham, Clowney, Marlon, Patrick McCary, Keaton Mitchell, Morgan Moses, Geno Stone. Only player that's really out is Odafe, right? So the Ravens are looking pretty good injury-wise going into this game. Probably one of the first times this year that you can say that about the Ravens. Obviously, besides the guys that are still on IR currently, the Ravens are looking pretty decent. Now, I do want to talk about Keaton Mitchell just for a second. As far as I know, he hasn't been elevated to the roster or anything like that. As far as I know, I don't know. But Harbaugh just says a possibility that he gets some action, so maybe that happens tomorrow. I don't know. But at the end of the day, a guy like Keaton Mitchell could help the Ravens out, add some more juice to the offense, add some more explosiveness in the backfield. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. All right, so cool. Let's move on to the other team here, and let's talk about the Titans. All right, so Sorry, I got to find my list. All right, so the Titans have two main guys out that I'm going to have listed here. That's Treylon Burks, their second-year wide receiver, and Elijah Molden, one of their cornerbacks. He's played about 50% of the snaps this year so far for the team. So he gets enough action to be considered a guy that they're going to miss because he plays enough. All right, and Burks, first-round pick, second year in the league this year. This hasn't really quite popped off for him yet. But that is a passing game option taken away. So now it kind of leaves DeAndre Hopkins as one of the sole threats out there for the Tennessee Titans. Okay. All right. Now, last three games for the Titans. Okay. So they've gone against two AFC North opponents. They're 1-1 against that. Then they've also played the Colts. So 27-3 loss versus the Browns. Then the exact same score versus the Bengals, except this time that they won that game 27-3. All right. 23-16 loss versus the Colts. So this is the last three games for the Titans. They're 1-2, kind of up and down performances from them. And listen, we Ravens have lost to the Colts, right? So I can't say anything bad about that. The Colts team, they fight. Shane Steichen gets those guys ready to play. Kudos to them for probably being better than a lot of people thought they were going to be this year. And that's with Anthony Richardson in up the lineup, Gardner Minshew coming in playing. So kudos to them. All right, so let's get into the numbers for the Titans defense. All right. Pass defense, 240 yards a game, 23rd in the NFL. All right, and then they have their complete submissions that they give up is a staggering number, honestly. 71.7 completion percentage for 28th in the NFL, 2.8 sacks a game, dead middle tie for 17th in the NFL. All right, so the Ravens they have an advantage here in the passing game. Now we know what happened last week, the wide receivers and things like that. We'll talk about that as I give my thoughts on the game, but just run into the numbers right there. All right. Rushing defense for the Titans, 94.6 yards a game, ninth in the NFL. Okay, very stout up the middle. Good tackling unit. All right, so now that shouldn't be surprising just because they do have a beast in the middle, and I almost said Jeremiah. That's Jeffrey Simmons. Excuse me. Great player, all pro level kind of talent. Jeffrey Simmons is truly one of the best players in his position. This Tennessee Titans defense is no slouch, all right? Now, the passing game, obviously, numbers are what they are, but there's good players on this defense, okay? Harold Landry, just mentioned Jeffrey Simmons. They still got Kevin Byard on the back end. So there are good players on this defense. They got Sean Murphy Bunting, who came over from the Buccaneers. So they have players. So this is not I would just say a no-name, straight up bad defense. They got some guys on this defense, all right? Okay, let's get to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Titans offense and some numbers for them. 17.6 points a game for 26 in the NFL. 293 yards of total offense for the Titans for 24th in the NFL, all right? Now, I added in here their red zone touchdown percentage because I thought the number was important. 35.29 touchdown percentage in the red zone, which is 29th in the NFL, okay? So, comparison, the Ravens are now, after what happened in the Steelers game, the Ravens are now second in the NFL, I think around 73%, all right? So, a big gap there. So, this Titans offense hasn't been very good. The Ravens can't let them get going, all right? Passing offense, 187 yards a game, the 28th in the NFL, and 28 attempts in the game for 30th in the NFL, and they're giving up 3.4 sacks a game, which is near the bottom at 27th in the NFL. All right, so the Ravens defense, Mike McDonald, let's give him some pressures and get after Ryan Tannehill. All right, rushing offense, kind of middle of the pack as well. 106 yards a game, 18th on 25 attempts, which is 28th, so about over 4 yards a carry. All right. Now that's the game by the numbers. Now some keys to the game that I want to get into. All right, so let's talk about this Ravens offense versus this Titans defense. All right, so for me, the first one is get the jump early. All right, now we've seen times where the Ravens offense has started off good early on, they don't sustain that pressure. We've seen times where they started slow and just and was able to get it on later. Right, so this Ravens offense, the Ravens have been in London for a whole week. They've settled in. They're used to the climate. They're used to everything around. The time zone change shouldn't be anything that's going to be too staggering for them. They should be ready to play this game. All right. So get the jump early on this Titans defense. All right. This Titans defense, as we've seen, is giving up a lot of passing yards. So the passing game could be there. Now you can't abandon the run game completely. You got to keep them honest. So I do expect. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So I do expect Justice Hill and not Keaton Mitchell, but Justice Hill and Gus Edwards to have a good game. Now, Keith Mitchell gets thrown into the mix. That's great. I would love to see it. But the main guys we know, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, you got to be able to keep them honest. You got to be able to still have enough of a threat of the passing game. Now, this is when the play action game comes in, bring the linebackers down, and then you can hit them over the top. All right, Zay Flowers, guys like that. The Ravens need to get the Ravens wide receivers back in the rhythm early on, especially after the kind of game that they had last week, okay? Now, number two is what we already been talking about. The wide receivers bouncing back. The wide receivers have to show that last week was a 1 week fluke. It was one of the worst wide receiver performances that you're going to see. But I will say this, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Just because the first 4 weeks of the season, there was literally stats saying that the Ravens have dropped 0 passes by their wide receivers. So they have to show that last week was just a bad week and bounce back to what they were the first 4 weeks of the season. If that happens, I'm going to be excited about it, how the game could potentially go. All right. Now, 2 keys to the game for the defensive side of the ball. Number one, contain Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry hasn't been, prime King Henry, nothing like that. But the simple fact of the matter is this, right? The Titans don't have a very good passing offense. I already mentioned earlier that Treylon Burks is going to be out of this game. So that means that you're really worried about DeAndre Hopkins. Well, whether Treylon Burks played or not, the main guy is going to be worried about DeAndre Hopkins. But even more so now that he is seemingly the main threat on the outside. All right, you got to put Tannehill in a position where he has to feel like he has to win this game. All right, we say this every week, but it's the truth, right? When you have quarterbacks that aren't upper echelon type of tier guys, you have to put them in a position where they have to put the team on their back in some ways and throw the ball to win the game. The Ravens cannot come into this game versus the Titans offense that's just been okay at running the football and let Derrick Henry get off. All right. The main thing I'm worried about is kind of Marcus Williams on that second, third level of the defense. All right. So last week we talked about a couple days ago I talked about how he won't even move his left arm, and the Titans it's on film, so I'm sure they saw it. All right. He has to be prepared to tackle Derrick Henry. Now, obviously, there's Roquan Smith, there's Patrick Queen, Matt Abiki on the front line. There's a whole bunch of guys that probably have to get through first before they even get to Marcus Williams. I'm aware of that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to those kind of situations, if I'm the Titans, I'm seeing where he is and see if I can run his direction. All right, and if they can block it up, it could be trouble. All right, so contain Derrick Henry. And the second one is win the trenches, okay? Now, that is about running the ball, but it's also about this Titans pass protection. They're giving up, like I said, over 3 sacks a game. The Ravens are, I believe, top 5 in getting in sacks per game. So this is a good matchup for this Ravens defense. It's a good matchup for Mike McDonald, who has been able to send various different kinds of blitzes and confuse offensive and offensive lines and get home to the quarterback. That needs to continue, all right? Get the Titans in second and long, third and long situations, and it's going to play in the Ravens' favor immensely. That's the keys to the game for the Ravens offense. For the Ravens defense, excuse me. So back up the Titans, contain Derrick Henry, and everything else will fall into place. All right. I do like Marlon Humphrey on DeAndre Hopkins. I think that Not that he's going to win every matchup. He's still recovering from his foot injury and things like that. I get all of that. Not that he's going to win every matchup, but a more physical type of matchup is what Marlon Humphrey more thrives in. I think he likes to go against more physical kind of wide receivers, right? I think he can do better in that kind of matchup. Okay, so that's what I got for the keys to the game. X factors, we're going to keep it simple, man. It's the same thing we already talked about. All right, it's the Ravens wide receivers versus this Titans secondary. Not just to keep harping on wide receivers, but after the kind of display that happened last week, hey, Mark Andrews is in. You know what? We're going to change this. I'm going to change my note. I'm going to say Ravens pass catching unit, because that has to include Mark Andrews, man. Mark Andrews last week. Oh no, sorry. Mark Andrews last week had 3 drops. All right, this is an all-pro player. This is a Pro Bowl tight end. This is one of the top 3 tight ends in the NFL. He had 3 drops last week, so I got to include the entire Ravens pass catching unit. It can't just be the wide receivers. This pass catching unit as a whole has to step up this game because the Ravens have the advantage here. Okay, the Ravens showed last week that the players are open, the guys are getting open. You got to finish the play and catch the ball. All right, I'm not going to harp too much on it about. Do they need to replace these guys? No, because the first 4 weeks of the season, I had no worries about the Ravens receivers in their hands. So I'm not all of a sudden going to be worried to death about it now. I believe that it was a 1-game bad situation. You get it fixed. If it happens this game, then we'll worry about it. So the Ravens pass catching unit versus Tennessee Titans secondary is the X factor. Can these guys get open, which they should be able to, and can they finish the play? All right. So Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, Mark Andrews, all right, finish the play. Okay, that's what we're worried about here. And I would like to see the Ravens kind of have some defined positions for guys too, right? I've spoken about this as well. So Bateman, I think, does really well outside, running those slant routes, comebacks, curls. He's really shifty, keep him on that kind of stuff. Odell, especially dealing with his ankle injury at the moment, he needs to be in a slot. He needs to be somewhere where he can be crafty, where he doesn't have to rely overwhelmingly on physical gifts. He can use his mind in the way that he can run routes to get open. And then Zay Flowers is your do-it-all, jack-of-all trades, move him all over the field. So, which the Ravens have already done with Zay Flowers. So, that's his role is already kind of solidified as that, but keep that kind of going. And the Ravens should be able to win this game. But at the end of the day, this kind of goes back to the video I talked about yesterday. In games the Ravens are supposed to win, do they play down to their level of competition? The answer is yes. So, while I want to sit up here and predict a 27-10, 30-10 victory for the Ravens, I don't know. The Ravens keep the game close no matter who they're playing. So very well, this game that the Ravens are fully expected to win can end up being, a 24-17 sweat fest, 24-20. So that's what I'll go with. I'll go with 24-20 Ravens, all right, in a very, very tight game that is unnecessarily tight. Until the Ravens can show to me that they are consistent in playing, like find a baseline for how they're going to play, right? No matter if they're playing the 49ers or playing the worst team in the league, right? How are you going to play week in, week out? Until they find that baseline, I'm just going to assume that they're going to play up to their competition and play down to their competition. So I think the Ravens will win. I think it will be a tight game and probably, like I said, unnecessarily tight. So 24-20 Ravens. That's my score prediction. Don't forget to leave your guys' score predictions in the comments. And y'all have a great day, all right? So it's Gabriel. This is Fan TV. I'm out.